Jesus said in the gospel that there's not going to be any signs given to us except the sign of Jonah. And so I wanted to talk about this sign of Jonah because we're all very familiar with signs. We drive on the road, we see stop signs, yield signs, speed limit signs. Signs are everywhere. Signs give us information, and they direct us. They tell us which way to go. So signs are good things. So we're familiar with signs, and religiously, signs are something that are significant. That word significant has the word sign in it. And so I want to tell you about the most significant sign that we see every day, and that's the sign of Jonah. Years ago, if you know the Passionists well, and most of you do, here in the Eastern Province, they used to produce a magazine called Sign Magazine, and it was all about the cross of Jesus, the crucifix of Jesus. And then, of course, those of you who know the Passionists, you're familiar with our habit, and on our habit is not a badge. Some people think it's a badge, but actually we call it our sign. And within this sign, you will see a cross with a heart beneath it. And within the heart are three words in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. Hebrew, Latin, and Greek were the three languages of the cross. Above the cross of Jesus was put Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, in three languages. Well, in these three languages, we have the passion of Jesus Christ. And we wear this on our heart. And again, it's not a badge, it's a sign. And our first vow is to remember this great sign of Jonah and to proclaim its meaning to all the people. In a little while, you're all going to be coming forward, and we're going to be blessing you with the relic of St. Anne. And as we do that, asking God's blessing, notice how we do the blessing. We bless you in the sign of the cross. I remember when I was a little boy, growing up Catholic, the first prayer I ever learned was a prayer that my mother taught me. It was the sign of the cross. So folks, what I'm trying to tell you this morning is that we have a sign to look to. Many people travel far and wide looking for signs, and Jesus said that the one sign that I'm going to give you, there may be other signs, but the predominant sign that we have, the sign of God's love, the sign of His mercy, the sign of forgiveness, the sign of eternal life, is the sign of Jonah, the cross, the crucifix of Jesus Christ. St. Paul of the Cross, the founder of our religious community, loved to preach about the cross. He founded the Passionists in the 1700s in Italy, and he would travel around preaching parish missions and giving retreats, novenas all around Italy, because many people had fallen away from the faith and some priests had become lukewarm. And so he loved to preach about the cross as the crux of Catholicism, the cross as the crux of Christianity. And he would point to the cross and he'd say, you know, people are looking for miracles. This is the miracle of miracles. He said it's the most overwhelming work of God's love. And he said everything is to be found in the cross. So what a beautiful sign God is giving us. You look on the top of our beautiful basilica here, you see the cross. You can see it from miles around up here on this hill. Many of you are wearing crosses around your neck. Some people have it tattooed on their arms. Other people wear it for earrings. So we're familiar with the sign, but as a vow, we profess to meditate on this sign of the cross and also to proclaim its meaning. And that's what I want to do this morning to some degree. I have to tell you, I was born and brought up Catholic in Massachusetts. I was baptized as an infant, and I was confirmed in the 8th grade. And I grew up at the local church, and, we used to go to church every Sunday. And then after my confirmation, like many teenagers do, I fell away from the church. Just didn't seem like church was meeting my needs, and nothing seemed to be happening. So I was the youngest of 3 children, and once my parents got us through the sacraments, as they called it, I didn't have to go to church anymore. So during high school, I really didn't go to church except for Christmas and Easter. And then pretty much didn't go to a youth group or never attended novenas or missions or anything like that, but I was Catholic, just wasn't a participating Catholic like many are. So I remember I got into college, and I grew up in Massachusetts, in Springfield, Massachusetts, so the place that I went to school was the University of Massachusetts. I was studying business there. Now, I remember when I was a freshman in college, I wanted to meet people from all around Massachusetts, so, the place where I stayed, these big dormitories that they had there at UMass, some of them were high-rises. We had 5 22-story high-rise dormitories. And of course, there were all kinds of little dorms all around the bottoms of them. So literally thousands and thousands of students lived in this one little area. I remember I lived up on the 21st floor of one of these dormitories, and the view from up there was just beautiful, especially in the fall when all the leaves were changing. Well, anyway, one Friday afternoon I was walking on campus, and I look up at one of the dormitories, and on the 5th floor were the plate glass windows where the lounge was. And attached to these lounge windows, it was unmistakable, everybody could see it, were these 5 big posters. And much to my delight, as I looked up there, this is what it said. It was P-A-R-T-Y, party. And, it was Friday night, and I'm, away at college, and, they're going to have this big mixer. And I'm thinking to myself, this is great. This is going to be a chance to meet the girls and, have a good time. And so what did I do? I got dressed up. And how do you get dressed up when you're 18 years old? Well, put on my best blue jeans and put on my best Angora sweater. And then this is where it gets religious. My mother had given me a sterling silver cross to wear around my neck. And I guess she gave it to me, here's my son going off to college, and we'll protect him, give him the cross, even though he's not going to church. So I remember I had the sterling silver cross, and it used to glisten whenever the light would hit it. It was very, very pretty, very nice, very handsome. So as I put on the Angora sweater, I'm there in front of the mirror. I put the cross on, and I put it on outside my sweater. See, I was going to the party, and I was hoping that some sweet young thing would take a look at the cross and take a look at me and say, well, there's a Catholic guy. I think I'll go over and talk to him. So anyway, I went to the party, and I was with my friend, and we were standing there, and it was packed. There were people everywhere. It was just, everybody had seen those signs, and they had come to the party, and just the biggest mixer I've ever seen in my life. Girls galore, guys everywhere. My friend and I are standing there by the wall drinking some punch, and as we're looking, there she was. She was across the room, and blonde hair, blue eyes, 19 years old. Pardon my expression, she was drop-dead gorgeous. And she's looking at me and looking at my cross. And I'm thinking to myself, this thing's working like a charm. They write books about how you pick up girls. This ought to be on page 1, So as I'm waiting there and looking around, because that's the reason why I came to the party after all, and here she comes. She starts coming across the room right over to me. I try to stand up nice and straight and tall and give a little smile and everything. She walked right over to me. Beautiful girl. Looks at my cross, looks me right in the eyes, and she says, do you know what that cross means? Or are you just wearing it to look good? And you know what I told her? I said, of course I know what it means. I grew up Catholic. And I walked away from her. I had no clue. I was wearing the symbol of all that is holy, the symbol of all that is sacrificial, the symbol of all that is redemptive for my own self-aggrandizement so that I could pick up a girl. Well, God's sense of humor, I guess. As you can see by what I'm wearing, I didn't get the girl, but I did get a dress. But something happened to me that year that I have to tell you. I came to the cross. I believed in Jesus' death for me. I trusted that he died for me personally. And I received forgiveness for my sins, and there were many. I was touched by the grace of God, and now my life is totally different. Don't just live with passion.